Hello, class, and welcome to our final ethics lecture. I hope this class isn't anticlimactic since we have already passed our quizzes. But I do want to spend a little bit of time talking about social media ethics as an addictions counseling professional. Now, in our really increasing digital world, social media has become really an inescapable part of everyday life. And for addictions professionals, it offers an opportunity for outreach and networking and education, but it also presents some unique ethical challenges. So in today's lecture, we'll focus on the role of social media in our profession and the ethical considerations that arise when engaging with some of these platforms. Now, as addiction counselors, we have a duty to protect the confidentiality and the dignity of our clients. And this is regardless of the platform on which we interact. And this requires some really heightened awareness of the ethical pitfalls associated with online activity. From maintaining professional boundaries to safeguarding client privacy. And it is essential to remain vigilant in ensuring that our social media presence reflects the highest standards of ethical conduct. So in our lecture for today, we're going to dive into some of the core areas concerning things like confidentiality and privacy and a lot of the themes that we've covered already, but just in a different kind of context. As always, I want to start off with a little story, and then we'll dive into how social media interactions can really inadvertently breach client confidentiality and privacy, and what kind of strategies we can use to protect clients' privacy while we navigate the benefits of some of these digital platforms. We'll then dive into how social media blurs the line sometimes between personal and professional boundaries, and how this can make it easier to develop dual relationships, and how that can be very dangerous and why we need to be on guard. For friending someone, or someone's requesting to friend us, or makes comments on our digital space, how can we prevent this being an unprofessional interaction or violating boundaries and expectations that we have within our profession? And finally, we'll explore a little bit of the whole idea of informed consent in social media policies. So how can we be clear with our clients about things like social media? Because this is really critical for maintaining the kind of ethical standards that are really expected by the profession. Now, I want to start off by introducing you to Dr. Keely Combs, born in 1972. Dr. Combs is a psychologist who has made significant contributions to the whole ethical guidelines regarding the use of social media in mental health practice. And the work done by Dr. Combs has greatly influenced the direction that people have taken in developing social media policies. Dr. Combs is known for the development of the first comprehensive social media policy for therapists, which has really kind of become a model for counseling professions worldwide. And the guidelines used really cover everything from boundaries in social media relationships to handling online reviews and responding to client interactions on social platforms. And Dr. Combs has really kind of emphasized that social media is an extension of the professional environment, and that it really requires the same kind of ethical vigilance as in-person interactions. So, the benefit of the work of Dr. Combs is that it has been revised and engaged with by several professional associations, including the American Psychological Association and the American Counseling Association. And so kind of pushing them to include sections of considering digital and social media ethics in their work. Now, if we were to look at the rise of social media, we have kind of some of the more old school ones like Facebook and Instagram and Twitter/X and LinkedIn and many others. Each of them offers an opportunity to professional networking and education and outreach and even marketing for counselors. But with all of these opportunities come some fairly significant ethical considerations that do require our attention. Social media went from not really existing a couple of decades ago to now really kind of transforming how individuals connect and share and interact in the world. And we're continuously moving to a more digital kind of reality. If you just kind of take a look at Meta's vision for the future, you have a good sense of that. And so this is something that clearly is something that addictions professionals need to think about. Now, there are certainly some positive aspects of social media for outreach, and those are pretty clear. These platforms are also, though, present some unique ethical challenges in the context of therapeutic practice. The boundary between personal and professional lives can blur, and the openness of social media can expose professionals and their clients to some unintended privacy risks. And so the potential for dual relationships and confidentiality breaches and inappropriate interactions with clients really is heightened in the online world. And that is especially true for addiction counselors, because oftentimes we're dealing with clients that are looking for intimate contact because they've experienced so little of that in their life. And for many, social media can be an avenue where they think that they can find that. But that puts us at risk and it puts them at risk. And so there's a necessity to safeguard that therapeutic relationship and to uphold the integrity of our profession as we continue to live our lives in these online spaces. Now, in the counseling profession, as you know, confidentiality is the cornerstone of the therapeutic relationship. And maintaining this trust is essential to our effective work. Now, when integrating social media into the counselor's professional life, this necessitates, obviously, an ethical obligation to protect that confidentiality and privacy. And one of the key challenges that addiction counselors face on social media is ensuring that no personal or identifiable client information is inadvertently disclosed. Now, even small actions, such as liking a post, following a client's profile, or making comments that seem harmless, can potentially reveal confidential information or suggest a relationship with a client. And this could not only violate ethical guidelines, but also cause harm to the client's privacy. And so it's crucial to remember that any online behavior can leave digital traces. And these traces can be pieced together by others, possibly compromising the confidentiality of the therapeutic relationship. And so addiction counselors must be extremely cautious about their interactions on social media to avoid accidentally identifying clients or providing any indication of even of a therapeutic relationship. And one of the most important ethical guidelines for addiction counselors is to avoid engaging in social media contact with clients altogether. And this includes not accepting friend requests or follows or private messages from clients on personal or professional social media accounts. Now, while it may seem harmless to connect with a client, this creates a dual relationship and increases the risk of ethical boundary violations. And so we need to kind of remember that seemingly minor actions, such as posting a general comment about a counseling session or liking a public post, can unintentionally leave the traces that might potentially lead to privacy breaches. Now, there's the other side that we need to be mindful of too, and that is dual relationships, where a counselor holds more than one type of relationship with a client. And so this is recognized and well recognized, and we've talked about it lots in this class, that this is something that we need to work at avoiding. And in the digital age, social media creates new and very complex avenues for these dual relationships to form. And so it's important to maintain some clear and appropriate boundaries, and that's really essential to avoiding ethical violations, because social media naturally encourages connection between individuals. But for addiction counselors, accepting friend requests or follows from clients can lead to that dual relationship. And so these connections blur the lines between personal and professional roles, potentially compromising the objectivity and effectiveness of the therapeutic relationship. And the ethical dangers of interacting with clients on social media extends to both current and former clients. Even after that therapeutic relationship is formally ended, engaging with a former client on social media can still create a dual relationship. And so we need to kind of be careful of that. And this interaction may violate the trust established during counseling. Now, I'll just kind of share a little bit about my practice. Generally, my rule has been, first off, I tend not to be on social media, tend not to promote any kind of professional work on social media, although I do have, self-help videos and then my educational stuff online. But when it comes to therapeutic relationships, try to avoid having any kind of mixture between my personal space and those people that are in my personal life and those that are in my professional life. The other thing is, I have a hard and fast rule that I will, if I ever did have social media or any kind of contact with someone, other than to kind of check up on clients in the months after the end of our formal therapeutic relationship, there is no other contact with them. Now, I'm not on any social media anymore, but my other rule was generally no contact with anyone to kind of have them, because sometimes people will want to connect later on a different level. And my general rule is 10 years. I will If there has been a decade that has passed, then in my mind and in professional associations, they're certainly going to be comfortable with that. Although I should say that you always need to be very careful, even with a decade of separation between the therapeutic relationship and, having a friend on Facebook. That because the relationship started in a certain place, there's always that potential of harm. Now, I'm not on Facebook, so I don't need to worry about, or Meta or whatever it's called, so I don't need to really worry about that. But that's something to kind of be mindful of. Now, here's another thing to kind of be thinking about in your professional work. Because informed consent, remember, is a fundamental ethical requirement in counseling and ensuring that clients understand and are fully aware of things like boundaries and responsibilities and limits of the therapeutic relationship. So in the context of social media, it's equally important that clients understand how their counselor uses certain platforms and the potential risks associated with any online interaction. So crafting clear social media policies and discussing them with the client during the informed consent process can go a long ways to help prevent misunderstandings and hurt feelings and ensure things like ethical compliance. Now, if we're to think in terms of best practices, really kind of essential for addiction counselors to address the whole issue of social media very early on in the therapeutic relationship. This conversation can be part of that process, but it should be, continually touched on through the professional relationship. Any professional accounts that they may maintain, and reinforce the boundaries around interacting with clients online. So counselors should be very clear that social media interactions such as friending or following a client are considered boundary crossings. And, a written social media policy is really, I think, an important tool in safeguarding the therapeutic relationship. And this policy should outline the counselor's professional boundaries regarding social media use and make it clear that all communication with the client should take place in professional settings. And this policy should emphasize that any social media connection, whether through friend requests or likes, is prohibited in order to protect this relationship. And if you're very clear with that and explain to them that this is for their care, then you can save a lot of hurt feelings as they are trying to make a connection to you in other spaces. And, this is absolutely important. In this whole age of social media, addiction counselors must really clearly navigate the line between their professional and their personal lives. And so maintaining the clear and consistent boundaries online is just as important as in the traditional settings. Because addictions professionals have to have the boundaries that are clear, and that the clients need to understand that there's a difference between personal and professional roles. And while it may be tempting to use social media accounts to express opinions and share experiences or connect with others, counselors must be aware of how this content could be perceived by clients and colleagues or the broader public. Another thing to kind of keep in mind is it isn't just in the professional setting. Any kind of online post, whether you're expressing personal opinion or not, is going to reflect upon you and as a person and reflect upon you as a professional. So be careful what you post. Don't be posting a bunch of pictures of you being unprofessional, even on your personal social media page, because that will very likely come back to bite you. Most of the world does not understand the separation between the personal and the professional. And so they will take whatever you are presenting anywhere in any space as a representation of you as a professional. And that has gone a long ways to harm a lot of people. And we have an infinite number of examples of public figures and counselors and even media stars posting something where they think it's generally personal, kind of focused on those people that are in their inner circle, and comes to be something else. So be very careful is what I'm saying with any kind of posts that you post. Now, as social media really kind of continues to blur the boundaries between personal and professional spaces, addictions professionals are going to have to figure out how to engage with people. And when a client engages with a professional on their social media account, whether that be professional or personal, the addiction counselor really must carefully consider how to respond, or whether to respond at all. And so there's some guidelines that really kind of you need to kind of think about. The first thing to kind of think about is, first up, avoid engaging with clients on social media platforms. Simple. Any direct engagement, like replying to comments or accepting friend requests, can lead very quickly to that dual relationship and breaches of confidentiality. Even a simple like to a client's post can blur that professional boundary. Redirect as far as redirecting the therapeutic conversations to formal settings. If a client reaches out to a counselor through social media and they want to discuss something that's going on in their lives, some personal issues, or something that's related to their therapy, it's really essential at that point to redirect the conversation to a formal, secure setting, whether that be a secure video chat or email or phone, or addressing it in the next personal session. Those are the kinds of things that you need to kind of be mindful of. The other thing is to be kind of neutral and personal when it comes to interacting with people, if you accidentally interact with someone on social media. And it might just be necessary. You're not wanting to be uncaring, but at the same time, things like when a client tags the counselor in a public post or comments on professional profile, the counselor should respond with neutral professional language, not making it personal, not making it warm. And then, if there's some concern about hurting the person's feelings, well, connect with them outside of that platform in order to kind of clarify why that language was used. All of that goes a long ways to managing a client's frustration with a lack of response on social media, and reminding them that this is for their care, and so you're doing this as a professional, and that should hopefully lessen some of that angst that sometimes a client can get. Now, how do we balance maintaining a professional image, which kind of requires you being online, with personal expression on social media? Counselors are often seen as role models by clients and by the broader community. And so Maintaining a professional image online is essential for upholding the integrity of the therapeutic relationship. However, counselors, like everybody else, they might want to express their personal views and share their experiences or engage with others in social media. And there's that challenge that's there. Some may choose to not be on social media. I've kind of found that that's kind of where I've generally had to go. For others, they might have a separate professional and a personal account. This is useful, but it is still easy enough for someone to find a person's personal information on platforms. And so you need to be very clear, if you're going to do that you maintain very distinct accounts and very distinct styles, and have it clear on both what these are appropriate for. It's also about managing the privacy settings. Even with separate accounts, privacy settings should be managed very carefully, and personal accounts should be set to private to limit the access to their close friends and their family. And this is going to go a long ways to reduce that risk that, first off, that clients or the public will come across personal posts that don't align with their counselor's professional image. The other thing to kind of be mindful of is to consider the impact of personal posts. Counselors should think critically about how their personal posts might be perceived. Posting about controversial topics, sharing strong opinions, or discussing their own personal struggles publicly can affect how clients and colleagues view the counselor. And that can have an impact upon your own professional life. Now, while it's generally advised to keep personal and professional accounts separate, some counselors do choose to use personal accounts to engage with professional audiences by sharing insights and educational content or professional experiences. Now, when doing so, it's really critical here to maintain a professional tone and consider how every post or interaction really kind of reflects upon their image. Remember, we have a responsibility to maintain an image and to represent our profession in a positive light. That is a requirement of our profession. We also need to maintain confidentiality and avoid sharing any content that could be linked to a client. The other thing that we are required to do is respect the boundary between personal and professional life, even in the online space. Now, finally, we come to marketing. For those in private practice, this becomes a very important thing because marketing really is your lifeblood to maintaining your professional existence. And so marketing in addiction counseling, especially on social media, can be an extremely powerful way to raise awareness and to reach those in need of support. However, there are ethical guidelines that must be followed to ensure that marketing efforts are not only effective, but also respectful and professional. Now, what I would suggest, especially once you are established in a professional association, or in a private practice, is that you have somebody else manage your professional social media so that there isn't that kind of risk. And that you try to kind of separate it out by having an incorporation that kind of represents you in the social media space, so that it isn't you as a person. And you can share some things on there, but it just keeps everything neat and clean. A couple of things to be mindful of. First off, avoid any exploitation of vulnerable populations. Don't exploit people. Be accurate and transparent in how you are representing your services. Give it a professional tone and professional look. avoid any misleading claims and any unprofessional self-promotion, because there are no real quick fixes in the addictions profession. Everything is slow slog, and being honest about that is very important. And also avoid things like cyberbullying or harassment or any unethical responses. So when it comes to things like cyberbullying or harassment, the professional should respond in a manner that aligns with their ethical guidelines. Be calm and clear, and don't engage in things that are inappropriate. Rather, if something is inappropriate on a platform, report it to the social media platform. Block the individual who's been engaged in the harassment. Address the issue also through any legal authorities, because there are a lot of laws against cyberbullying. Just be mindful of that. And support clients in managing their cyberbullying as well. In order to if a client reports experiencing cyberbullying or online harassment, the counselor has a role to play in offering support and guidance in that and helping them through that process. That can be part of the therapeutic relationship. And remember that there are some legal and ethical obligations in maintaining a professional presence in the online space as well. So a few things to kind of be mindful of here. First off, think of your dual relationships, think of responsibility for informed consent, and your requirement to protect confidentiality. And while we are past the time for the quiz, one possible question that you might be given for something like this would be, which of the following actions could lead to a breach of confidentiality for an addiction counselor on social media? And of all of those options, A probably looks like the best, where you're accepting a friend request from a client on a personal account, which can obviously lead to a breach of confidentiality. And that is going to blur professional boundaries and may expose client information. So the action in that case would be A, as far as what might breach confidentiality. And we obviously do not want to do that. So it's not a good response. I'm just saying that based upon the way the question is worded, that's what we would do. Anyways, so just a bit of a recap. If you're going to engage in social media, be very careful with it. Be professional. If you are going to have personal social media, even there, limit who can see it to those that you can trust, and then still be very careful with it. If you want to express something that's controversial, do it in person to your friends, not online where everybody can see. And beyond that, be very clear with your social media policy in order to protect against things like a dual relationship or a breach of confidentiality. Hope you enjoyed this lecture, and I hope you enjoyed this course. This course has been a joy for me to teach, and I hope you've enjoyed learning a little bit about what goes into being a addictions professional in an ethical manner. You take care, and hopefully I'll see you in another semester with another course. Bye-bye.